Okay. Bare lige for
2 projekter.
2 projekter. Altså, kan du ikke se mig? Mit kamera. So the chapter 7 and text number 14, where Krishna is talking about his divine energy. And it's like this. This is the original text in Sanskrit written in Devanagari, and this is the transliteration in the Latin letters. There's a list of words and translation and long commentary. This is how this book is laid out. So we will read the Sanskrit, the translation, and the purport, which is 1.5 pages, or 2 pages almost. So here we go. I'll read the Sanskrit, and after the lecture you can ask a little questions if you want. Otherwise, this will be a question and answer session later at 6 o'clock also. Before we start reading from the Vedic literature, we chant an invocative mantra, which goes like this. You can repeat if you want. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'll read the Sanskrit. Daivihi Isha Guramayi Mama Maya Duratjayam Mami Vayi Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This is Krishna who speaks to Arjuna, and this means, in English, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And the commentary goes like this. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning God, has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of these energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with the material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nityabhava, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult. Even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by the divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mayinam tu maheshwaram. Quote, although Maya, illusion, is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Unquote, from Smitashvata Upanishad. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna, or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul, and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mameva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna or Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajagun, passion, and Tamagun, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya, therefore he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas confirm this in the phrase Tameva Viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the merciful Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnur Eva Sanshaya. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. So that was the purport, the commentary to the verse, and the verse again quickly is Daivi Vishgunamayi Mavamaya Turatyayamami Vayi Prapatyanti Mayam Itam Parampiti. This divine entity of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this is a verse describing Krishna's insurmountable energy, in which we are all existing at the present moment. We are all eternal, small little sparks of God. If Krishna is like the sun, then we are like the sun's rays, little particles of sunshine. If God is the complete fire, we are little sparks of that fire. And if God is the unlimited, and we are the limited, the unlimited consists also of limited entities, and those limited entities are we. And God and the living entities exist eternally. They exist eternally in a relationship of love. The living entities, the sparks of the fire, naturally are in love with their origin, so to speak. The original sense of love, the original feeling of love, comes from the feeling between the spirit, the limited to the unlimited. The limited is depending on the unlimited for its existence. And when you add consciousness to that, then love gives meaning. If you say that like the sun's rays are completely depending on the sun itself, if you take away the sun, there can be no sun's rays. If you take away the fire, there can be no spark. And if you take away the unlimited, there can be no limited. I don't know if that's true. Sounds good. But the point is that the small is depending on the big. The small spark depends on its source, so to speak. And the relationship between the fire and its sparks and the sun and its rays, you can say, at least on the physical platform, seems to be impersonal. I mean, there can be no love between these entities. It's not that the sun's rays love the sun in a conscious fashion. Not that I know of it, at least. Maybe they do. But when you add consciousness, if you add like the spirit, soul, who is conscious, who is giving consciousness to the body, when you add that to the equation, so to speak, then there is also love. There's a conscious relationship between the soul and God, and that relationship is called love. So love means to serve, right? Love means service. If you love someone, you want to do something for that person. And everybody who has been in love with somebody knows that if you love somebody, or if you have a child, then you want to do something for that person that you love. So Krishna consciousness is like that. In the material world, we love bodies. And as Krishna says, this material energy, we are covered by this material energy now in the form of various bodies. Some of us have male bodies, some have female bodies, some have Danish bodies, Indian bodies, different kinds of bodies. But these are all results of the material energy that covers the living entity. So the identification that we identify as man or woman, Danish, Indian and so forth, That's an illusory identification, because we are not these things. We are eternal sparks of God, and the attempt to love each other is a reflection of the soul's original attempt to love and serve God, Krishna. So the point is that this love that we feel for each other in the material world can be purified, so that it becomes not only love for everybody, for the ones we love, or for everybody in the material world, or for God, but love for everything. You feel spiritual love for everything that lives on the spiritual platform, but that requires that our love has to be purified. So when the living entity enters this material atmosphere, originally the living entity belongs to a spiritual atmosphere, a spiritual world. It is in contact with the fire, just as the sun's rays. They are in contact with the sun directly, and the sparks of the fire, they are in contact with the fire. If the spark falls out of the fire, it becomes extinguished. It becomes lifeless. It has to be in the fire again to become alive. So Krishna consciousness means how to put your soul back into the fire of God consciousness. It's actually it's a concrete feeling and experience, and a concrete, it's something that you feel in your whole being when you come in contact with the supreme fire, Krishna. So at the present moment, this spiritual spark, the spark of spirit inside us, which is situated in the heart, which is our real self, eternal self, once took a decision not to serve God. Because love, as I told you before, love is the original feeling between the soul and Krishna. And out of love, the soul wants to serve and love God. But love has to be free. There's no way you can love somebody by force. So it has to be completely free. Therefore, the soul can choose not to love Krishna, but to... Then if the soul, so to speak, misuses its freedom, because the soul actually is meant to love God, but it can misuse its freedom, and for that purpose, this cold energy exists. The spiritual energy is the warm energy. It's very hot, it's very potent, it's very fiery. It's called Brahman, it's glowing. And it has form also, but it's also glowing, and it's also eternal. But now Krishna has created this cold energy called the material world, which is a dark energy. The only way we can get light here is by the sun. You take away the sun, then the universe, at least this part of it, becomes very dark. So this is called the material, external, lower energy of the Lord, and it is created for us spirit souls who have taken this choice of separating ourselves from the direct service of God. The soul is a copy of God in a minute quantity. If God is the unlimited person, then we are the atomic person. So the atomic person has no strength of his own. An atom cannot on its own, build houses or, do things, buy food, drink water. The atomic spirit soul has no capacity to do this on his own, because he's an atom. He's atomic. God is unlimitedly big and we are unlimitedly small. It is said that if you take a tip of a hair and divide it into 10,000 parts, then you get an approximation of the size of the soul. One of our scientists called Richard Thompson, Sariputta, he's not with us anymore, he left his body some years ago. He once made a calculation based on this statement of the Veda that the soul has the size of a 10,000 part of the tip of a hair. And he came to the conclusion that this is basically the size of a hydrogen atom. If you know the size of a hydrogen atom, it's the smallest atom, according to the periodic table. Hydrogen, helium, and so on and so forth, ending with these, radioactive isotopes. But we are atomic in size, and the point is that as atomic living entities, we have no capacity or power to create or to do things at all. But when we choose not to serve God, when we want to take God's place, so to speak, that was my point. We're created as images of God. It's even stated in the Bible. We are created in God's image. So we are little persons. But because we're not actually God, we have to be given a body, a material body, in order to act, with arms and legs and a head and a brain and blood and muscles and mucus and pus and all this, to exist in the material world. And then we can act. Then in that way God fulfills our desire to become separate gods. We are here in this material world because we wanted to be independent. Everybody wants to be independent. This is a very big trend nowadays. If you live in a country and then you want to have your part of the country as independent, and smaller and smaller and smaller states are coming and more flags are popping up in the United Nations. United Nations is an interesting thing because flags get more and more and more. If they're united, there should be one flag. But it's called the divided nations. So that's because we are born into this Icha Dvesha Samuttina. We are born out of desire into duality and hate. Into duality of desire and hate. Desire and aversion. These are the two poles of existence that we live with. We want some things and we hate some other things. And this world of duality was created for us because once we chose as spirit souls not to serve God, and then we became covered by this Daivihiyesha Gunamaya. Gunamaya means the material nature, which consists of three modes or aspects or energies or qualities. Material nature has three qualities: ignorance, passion and goodness. In the mode of, these are like three temperatures of existence in the material world. Ignorance is the very cold temperature, when you can compare it to the blue color, and which means that the consciousness is very covered. That kind of ignorant consciousness is found basically in the animals. Animals means you do four things: eat, sleep, mate and defend. And nothing more than that. If you analyze the life of the animals, you will find these basically four things. They eat, sleep, defend, and they mate. They procreate. Basically that's what's going on in the animal kingdom. Now, as human beings, we have this different chance. We have an intellect and a brain, and God has given us some sense to understand higher truths. So this higher truth in the human form this ability in the human form should be used to try and understand higher knowledge. In the human society there is always a quest for knowledge. Advanced human beings always want to know. What's life? What's nature? How did we end here? What's the universe? How was the universe created? And we speculate and speculate about the Big Bang and Darwin and this and that. Now here of course we are following another type of knowledge, not the knowledge that you try to reach out, but the knowledge that comes down through the disciplic succession. It's a different kind, and we're presenting that knowledge here, knowledge that's coming down through the generations of sages and disciples and spiritual masters, and this knowledge never changes. It's called spiritual knowledge. It's different. This description of the material nature and the universe is a little different than we find when we watch science programs on the television. But this knowledge has the potency to deliver the soul from this illusion I was talking about, the three modes of material nature. I was talking about ignorance. The next thing is passion. Mode of passion is the second one, which means creation and doing things, impetus to act, impetus to become big, impetus to strive for houses and boats and money and position and politics. That's the mode of passion. It's prominent among human beings. Mode of passion means human being. Human beings striving after material success. The mode of goodness is also for human beings, or for higher beings, meaning the mode of knowledge. Mode of goodness means when you become elevated above passion and see this passionate life is useless, you're anyway going to die, so what's the use? What's the use of collecting so much money, boats and cars and industries and position, because we're going to die anyway. What can we bring with us when we die? Oh, I give it to my children. Yeah, but they're also going to die. And their children are also going to die. Nobody's going to be staying here forever. Everybody's dying. That's the mode of goodness, when you come to that understanding, you try to see things a little more from above. And the mode of goodness is not so well known in the West. It's a very unusual quality. If you want to find somebody in the mode of goodness, you have to go to a temple, or maybe you can find a poet or an author or an academic. They're a little more in the mode of goodness, more interested in knowledge. Goodness means you're interested in knowing things. So somebody with a big education and big knowledge is more in the mode of goodness, but can somebody turn off the watch? And then there are even higher modes of goodness when you strive for spiritual knowledge. And this is the spiritual knowledge coming down through the Guru Parampara. And this knowledge is the only means by which, as Krishna says, one can come free from this illusory material covering that we're in at the moment in form of a body. This body we have is just a material covering that we have for 100 years max, and then we go to another one. But if we can understand how this material energy is covering us, if we can understand that by studying, for example, the Bhagavad Gita, highly recommended. If anybody brought some money with them, then you should buy this book and read it. And read about how to surrender to Krishna. Now, Krishna says, it's difficult to overcome this material energy, this illusion that we are Danish, we are boys and girls and this and that. It's difficult to move that identity back into the soul. But if you surrender to Krishna, it's possible. So what does it mean when Krishna says, surrender to me? Well, that we have to find out by reading the Bhagavad Gita. Surrendering to Krishna means to find a spiritual master who is a link in the Guru Parampara coming from Krishna and going down in the cyclic succession to the present time. And you ask this person about life. You ask the person how to surrender to Krishna, what is life, what is Krishna consciousness, who am I? And then the spiritual master, he will tell you, okay, you're a spirit soul, and if you want to surrender to Krishna, you should chant this Maha Mantra. So in the present age, our surrender to Krishna is mainly by singing his name. Which seems to be what? Is it so simple? Yeah. Here I'm talking, and the conclusion is just chant these names. It's actually that simple. Because God is absolute, meaning He's not relative. So if God says, my name is Krishna, or if you by the name Krishna mean the all-supreme personality of Godhead, and that knowledge has been coming down through the parampara from Krishna himself, then when you say the name Krishna, when somebody in that disciplic succession tells you to chant his name, Krishna, then if you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, you will definitely feel different. You will definitely feel a surge of transcendental pleasure within your body from chanting this Maha Mantra, because it is in harmony with the Absolute Truth. This name, Hare Krishna, it actually depicts, it means God. And since He's absolute, the name and the person is non-different from each other. It's the same thing. So that means if we chant this name and hear it, let the vibration go into the ear and enter the mind and the heart, that means that is like a detergent, a washing up liquid, a Vestimel, to clean the soul from its contamination of matter, of identification with something which is not. Just like when you're dreaming at night, you identify with your dream body, even though we know that the body is lying in bed, probably snoring. But we are dreaming that we are in another body. Maybe we are flying in the sky. Sometimes you dream that you can fly. I've dreamt that a couple of times. And you are, when you do that, you're completely convinced that you are in the dream and the dream is truth. So in the same way, but when we wake up, of course, understand, oh, it was just a dream, and sometimes a little painful to go from one stage to the other, to the waking state, oh, I have to get up to work, like that. And in the same way, this consciousness that we have now, it's like a dream. Compared to the waking consciousness of Krishna consciousness, being aware of the soul's eternal relationship to God, that is waking consciousness, and compared to that, what we're doing now is dreaming. So we're in a dream. When you're in a dream, it's very difficult to understand what your waking identity might be, because you're completely convinced that you are the body of the dream. And you're completely convinced that the opinions you have in your body that you have created with your brain are very important and very significant and very wonderful. But actually, as Prabhupada says in the purport, all these things, all the things that we say, we do, we opine, we think, it's all a result of the external energy of the Lord. That everything that anyone says on the news, or any scientist or philosopher or economic guy says on the television, it's all just a result of the same three modes of material nature: ignorance, passion and goodness, a combination of the three, influencing the living entity to say and speak and do certain things. All this is complete illusion. And the only way to get out of that illusion is to find somebody who is not in illusion. It's like, as Prabhupada gives the example in the purport, in the commentary, that we're all bound by ropes. So we're walking around, let's say you're walking around on the job and everybody's bound by ropes, Hello, how are you? Good morning. Can you free me? No, I'm bound also. Can you free me? No, I'm also bound. Is there anybody here? No, we're all bound, so nobody can free each other. So you have to find somebody who's not bound by the ropes of illusion. Somebody whose knowledge has brought them up to a higher platform of consciousness. And such a person is called a Vaishnava or a devotee or a spiritual master. And one has to hear from such a person in order to understand how one is conditioned by material nature. And when one understands that one is conditioned by material nature, then act in a way to become unconditioned. And in this Krishna consciousness movement we are practicing, basically or mainly two methods of freeing ourselves from material nature, but there are also all in all 9 methods of devotional service. But it starts with hearing the message from the scriptures, hearing the message coming down from the Guru Parampara, and hearing the Maha Mantra. And then, when you heard the message, then try and repeat it. Try and repeat it to somebody else. That is called Kirtanam. So these two things, hearing the message, repeating the message, these two simple things, or hearing the Maha Mantra, saying the Maha Mantra, singing the Maha Mantra, these two simple things can bring us out of illusion. Of course, if we want to. If we don't want to come out of the illusion, we can chant Hare Krishna for, millions of lifetimes, and we will stay. Because if we like to be in illusion, why would Krishna bring us out of it? If we like this illusion, if you like to be Danish, we like to be this and that, then you can chant, but nothing will happen. But by understanding, like for example Bhagavad Gita, by reading it together with the chanting, then gradually we will understand. Yes, I will die. I will die in not such a long time. So why am I, working so hard for this short life? It doesn't really make sense. If we are eternal beings, and why work so hard only for this short life? No, as intelligent human beings, different from the animals, we should work hard for eternity. We should apply some energy. If we apply so much energy to make a career in this world, which is anyway perishable because we are going to die, and really we don't know when we're going to die. Maybe we're going to die in 1 second. We don't know if somebody's going to throw a bomb here, boom, and we're dead. Nobody can guarantee that we'll live forever. So that's why we should use this human energy to, maybe